Hey folks, let me get to the scene. Hey folks, Mike Shea here from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish. Here with a very special episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. Special for two reasons. One, I am running my irregular Princes of the Apocalypse game in 2 hours. 3 hours, I guess they're coming at 1, so I got a little bit of time. And so I wanted to get online and do some prep for that game. And I will also be doing prep tomorrow, so there will be 2 episodes this weekend, one today and one tomorrow, hopefully. Very likely. And the second one is the first episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep where you too can go through Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master because it has been released. You can pick it up right now if you go to Sly Flourish, the main website, and click the big cover image on the right-hand side. You can pick up a copy yourself for the small sum of $8. That gives you the PDF and EPUB version of the book. We have a whole bunch of other versions coming out as well. It's on the Kindle if you want it for the Kindle. It is on RPG Now if you want to add it to your RPG Now or Drive-Thru RPG library. And we have an Audible version coming out soon. And we are going to be starting work on the print copies, which hopefully will be out before the end of the month. There's a lot of back and forth that has to go in the print versions. You have to kind of get them shipped to you, and then you find something that's wrong, and then you fix that, and then you get it shipped to you again. So there's a fair bit of waiting for that. Let me pop out my chat here. If you happen to be in chat, come say hello, and let's talk about some D&D, and let's do some lazy DM prep. So this game, Princes of the Apocalypse, which has been out for a while, and I've run it once before for a Adventurers League group. This was, I don't know, 3 years ago or something like that. And I enjoyed it. It gets a bad rep as a D&D adventure, but I think even the worst of the hardback D&D adventures is still very playable and very usable and has a lot of really good material. So I was not, I recommended that we run it. I mostly recommended it because my wife had not played it yet, and she had played in almost all of the other hardbacks. So the other alternative was Out of the Abyss, which I also like very much. And we will probably play that at some point, but we thought we would go with this one, and it's a fine one. I'm running it differently than I did before, and I wrote a Sly Flourish article about this. I had keyed the big dungeons so that you couldn't really get to a place that was higher level than you were. You couldn't, for example, go to the Riverguard Keep and then go straight down into the Temple of Howling Hatred and then straight down into the Maelstrom. In this one, I have no such restriction, and I have that for 2 reasons. One is I'm leveling them quickly. I'm leveling them every session, so they're already level 6, and we've had about 5 sessions. So that's one reason that I'm not limiting that. And the second reason is I want the world to be relatively open. I want them to have choices about where they go. And for the most part, that works out, but there are the players have kind of shifted direction a lot. They recognize the fact that they have a big open-ended area, and it was like they were all about earth and fire for a while, and then they saw the air place, and they were talking about going there, and then they changed their minds and quickly went back to earth, and then all of a sudden they're in the water place. So they're kind of moving all about, and I don't think they have a clear strategy about how they're sort of attacking this growth of these elemental cults. The players are all experienced D&D players, so they know what's going on. They're familiar with the Temple of Element Evil. They know who Tharizdun is, and so they have to kind of act as their characters are going to act. But they're still not. Really kind of saying like, okay, we know that there's these elements. We're gonna, maybe we should kind of pick one and focus on that. They're kind of like, well, we'll see what happens, and the decisions that they're making at a micro level are affecting macro level activities. I couldn't find my notes for the last time I ran this game, so we're gonna have to play it by ear. But I will say that basically what happened in the last session, I guess it was the last 2 sessions, they had arrived at the beginning of the last session. They had arrived at Riverguard Keep. And they navigated through Riverguard Keep. They got into a whole bunch of shenanigans there. They had some subterfuge. The hard part there is we had like people that are clearly elementally tied to fire that are trying to convince the elemental water people to behave, and that didn't really work real well. And then they got through, and I think they fought the boss, the werebore, and they killed him. And then the rest of the keep is kind of like freaking out and chasing them down. So they quickly ran into the canal, got on a canoe, slammed the gate behind them, and then sailed down the 2-mile passage down into the Temple of the Crushing Wave Temple. I think that's what this place is, right? Temple of the Crushing Wave. And they fought some true elemental cultists down here. So they're starting off in area C2 over here on the right, the one that's right by the bridge C6. And I think they just pulled their boat off to the side here, over near the compass. And I think they rested for the night. So I think that's where we're going to kind of begin the adventure. And so knowing where we are, let's take a quick peek down the steps of the Lazy Dungeon Master. So give me 1 sec and we'll switch over here. So this is the final version. This is the one you can buy right now if you want, of Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. There's the beautiful cover by Jack Kaiser. Love his covers. He did this one, and he also did the Lazy Dungeon Master workbook. The workbook will be out, probably the PDF, I'm hoping also within the month, maybe a little longer. That one also has a fair bit of layout to do. It's in layout. We've finished all the design and development of it, but there's a lot of tweaky little layout bits to make sure that things all fit on a page. So you have to kind of edit the text in order to get it to fit, which we didn't really have to worry about with Return, because if it wraps, and we just put art on it. What was my point? Oh yeah, you did cover that. So this is the full version, all nice, like the hyperlink table of contents and all of that. And we are going, here's all the chapters. I think if you want to see, I think in the last episode, I don't remember the date, I will link to it. In the last episode, I actually went through the whole book. So if you want to get an idea of all of the things that are in this book, I actually scrolled through the entire book. That was the one that was like almost ready to be done. So I'm not going to do that today. But we will take a look. There's that other cover. So we use the artwork in this book. That's by Jack Kaiser. I love this piece of work. You can stare at it for hours and find all kinds of interesting things in here. You know, all sorts, like, look, I think that's the Tome of Beast down there. There's Esmeralda the Lich enjoying herself a fine read. She's reading. She knows how to read her D&D books. So now we come to the checklist. So the checklist includes 8 steps. One need not do all 8 steps. The steps are here to make us feel like we are well prepared for our game. So if we hit a step that doesn't make sense or we don't like it, we can kind of toss it aside. And you'll probably see a little of that when we go through the checklist now. But we start off by reviewing the characters. So we have, I kept the characters from a previous one. So let me rip through the 8 steps first, and then we'll start working on them for the Lazy DM as we prep for this game. And again, if you have any questions in chat, I am taking a look at the Twitch chat. Feel free to throw anything in there. Any questions you have, if you picked up the book and have any questions about it, let me know. I've gotten some good questions on Twitter about things, so really, really happy to talk about it. Obviously, I poured a year of my life into this. I poured more than a year. I just completely screwed up my window, didn't I? Oh, boy. Oh, no. Oh, this is the worst ever. There we go. Okay, that'll do. I accidentally dragged it up to the top. Yeah, I poured like a year of my life into this directly. Like I took a month off from work and I wrote it last August, about a year ago last month. But really, this is everything that I have ever talked about in D&D. I've kind of refined and thought about and tested and, you know, worked on it with other people and kind of saw what other DMs are doing and read a ton. I read like 30 different GM guides and DMing aids, and you'll see lots of references at the end of this book for all of these different things that I looked at. So anything that I had, any thought that I had about D&D that I think is worthwhile, and we polished, Scott Gray polished, and we put into this book. So if you care about anything at all that you see on Sly Flourish and you want the refined version of all of the best advice from Sly Flourish, this is it. And I don't know if I'll ever have anything like this again. So I'm obviously proud of it. And I don't know if it's the best book ever, but I think it's the best book I've ever done. So I hope you will like it. And like I said, I'm happy to talk about it. All right, the checklist. So we start by reviewing the characters. Who are they? What backgrounds do they have? And that seeds them in our mind so that when we are doing the rest of our game prep, we have an idea about how we can draw them in, or how we can tweak the adventure to support the backgrounds of the characters. Second, we have a strong start. Where does the game begin? I had a conversation with Chris Perkins at Origins last year and asked him about him running the games that he runs at for Acquisitions Incorporated. And I said, I can't imagine the stress of running a D&D game in front of 3,000 people. And he said that the most important thing he does is worry about how it's going to begin, and then it kind of is off to the races. And he says, learning how to stand back and let the other players really shine in those moments because they're so charismatic and they're so funny. That's he just needs to get things to begin. And luckily that supported my original hypothesis, which was that we should worry about where the game starts. That how the game begins. I think there's a lot of refinement in this. That idea of where it starts. Pardon me for pontificating for a minute, but where a game starts, that idea of like really focusing down on the focal point of a game, so that for a session, we worry about where that session is going to begin. For a campaign, we worry about what the next session is going to be. And for like a larger issue, we worry about the things that are going to matter most to the characters and surround them. That you'll see that theme throughout this book. So like we talk about the importance of a session 0. We talk about the importance of, for essentially for campaign prep is mostly adventure prep. We don't do, at least in this book, I don't really talk much about the approach that we take in this book is focusing on what's going to hit your players next and not worrying too much about the far future. As far as far future is concerned, we worry mostly about like the major antagonists and what they're doing, which is in a whole chapter about called fronts, or how do you do campaign planning. So campaign planning is really adventure planning because we're worried about what's going to happen next. Let's not spend a lot of time thinking about what's going to happen 5 sessions from now. Let's worry about what's happening in the next session, because what happens in the next session is what's going to matter for the session after that. The idea of planning sessions more than 5 out is, a sure way to hear the gods laugh. They're not, it's not going to end up where you think it's going to go. So we worry about the next session. And when we're worried about our next session, we worry about where that session is going to begin, because in the same way that trying to figure out what's going to happen 5 sessions from now, figuring out what's going to happen 3 hours into our game is also not very likely, because the characters are going to go do interesting things. So we worry about where it's going to begin. Hence the strong start, kind of circling back to that idea of creating the strong start. I promise you I won't pontificate this much about all 8 of these. What are the potential scenes? This one's really to make us feel good about ourselves. A lot of times these scenes we're going to throw away as the game goes in different directions, but it does help us feel prepared to say, here are 5 scenes I can run when the game takes place. And I'll be doing so today. I have some ideas for some scenes that I want to run. It's just a way to have like a loose outline in our head, so that if things, if we get to these points where the players are all just staring at us, wondering what to do next, we can just, look at our scenes and figure out what we want to do next. Define secrets and clues, probably the most important, second most important, maybe next to the strong start. I don't know if you're going to prioritize. I don't know how I prioritize these. Reviewing the characters, creating a strong start, and defining secrets and clues are very important. And secrets and clues are, we try to do a list of 10 for any given session. And those are things that the characters can learn as the game occurs. We don't know how they will learn it or where they will learn it. We only know that these are things they could learn. And then we keep them in mind and we keep them in front of us, so that when there's an interesting situation that occurs, the characters can learn about one of these things in that situation. So it's a way for us to prepare to improvise. We know the kinds of clues they'll discover. We don't know where they will discover them, and we can drop them in when they make sense during the game. If you think about a mystery game, this is a great way to run mysteries, because as a mystery unfolds, instead of saying like, well, the characters have to get that one piece of evidence in order to figure this out, we can say, no, they need to learn this fact about the murder, but they might learn that fact from many different sources. Maybe they learn it because they're talking to a street urchin who saw it. Maybe they learn it because they picked up a scrap of paper and one of them remembers that they saw the scrap of paper in someone's hand. We don't know how that will occur, and we don't know what direction the players are going to take. So having the clues in hand and then dropping them in as the players are navigating the direction makes the game, in my experience, feel solid and yet flexible at the same time. So secrets and clues are really important. Fantastic locations. Locations, particularly ones that are interesting, are hard to improvise. So we spend a little time preparing interesting locations. A lot of times when we're running a published adventure like like Princes of the Apocalypse, they already have the locations in there. We don't have to worry about it too much. So I'm probably not going to spend much time worrying about that in this, because I've got interesting places with good flavor text, I don't really need to do a lot of work. Outline important NPCs. If there are key NPCs that are critical to the movement of the game, at least write their names down, because names are hard to remember. And if you have one or two that you want to drop down, you can always drop down. But a lot of times we improvise the characters, the NPCs, as they show up. So it can depend. Usually I only have like one or two. When I'm doing it myself, I usually only have one or two. And they're people that are already known to the characters. And I just don't want to look like an idiot for not remembering the NPCs that they met. Choosing relevant monsters. I think for some DMs, it's really interesting that you're on step 7 before you worry about what monsters you're going to face. But the reality is, we can improvise a lot. If we read the monster manual, which we should, we can use a lot from that, and we can kind of fall back to maybe we should use this. In the case of like Prince of the Apocalypse, they're in this big underwater area. I'm going to go look at underwater monsters. Luckily, they usually have lists of monsters by area type, so I can look at that. One thing I did today, for example, is I poked around with the Creature Codex. The Creature Codex is a new book that just came out by Kobold Press. Kobold Press is a fantastic... Mephir says, prepping POTA. That is correct. Memphir. Today I have a Prince of the Apocalypse game. Tomorrow I will be talking about Tomb of Annihilation. So I have 2 games this weekend, one today, one tomorrow. And this is my irregular Prince of the Apocalypse game that happens roughly once a month. So, hello, Paladin Hulk. Thank you for coming. So, relevant monsters, for example, I saw a couple of monsters in the Creature Codex that I liked. I don't know that I have a good way to get the Creature Codex on this computer. I don't have it on this computer. I don't have a shared storage array between this. Maybe I don't think I can mail it to myself. Let me see. Let me try this here. Sorry, we're experimenting. I am unprepared. Creature. Hey, look, Creature Codex. Let's see, mail. It's 60 megabytes, so it's not likely to be mail, but sometimes they'll give me like a sharing link. That'd be really great if I can. If I can send this to myself. Use mail drop. All right, we'll see how that works out. Sorry, this is the lame, boring part of the show where I try to find a book that I can't see. So, what were we talking about? Monsters. So, yeah, what monsters can we use? And we can do that by kind of going through the monster manual, looking at environments, and just sort of jotting down the ones that we think we're going to run. I don't build combat encounters anymore. I used to be very particular in like the 4th edition style of what's the room they're going to fight in and environmental effects of the room and number of monsters and how that relates. And I do a lot less of that these days. I just kind of keep general monsters in mind, and then I improvise it during the game. Also, I'm running published adventures, and a lot of time the monsters are already predefined in a published adventure. But I really think of them as organic. The realistic part of the show where I do research. This is me mailing files to myself. I wouldn't exactly call that research. I think I sent it to myself, but I think it's trying to upload a 60 megabyte file to, there it goes. It's sending. Oh, look at that. Hey, Creature Codex. Click to download. iCloud. Hey, look at this. This is awesome. Let me drop that right there. Real work does not happen in a 5-minute span. No, in fact, most of the real work is probably reading stuff these days. I really am a big proponent of, we buy all these books, read them. So a lot of DM prep, I talk about like 15-minute DM prep or whatever, and you can do 15-minute DM prep, but the 15 minutes is backed by the fact that you know a lot about D&D and that you probably read your material, particularly like reading the monster manual. I really can't. I can't say enough about reading the monster manual. There's so much good stuff. And a really good key, and we'll get to this when I show the Creature Codex, is don't think so much about the stat block. I spend a lot of time worrying about the stat block, but read the text about a monster. It's so interesting. And I'll show you a monster that I saw that I think is going to be a great way to start today's game. Choosing relevant. And then finally, select magic item rewards. We have this as its own idea because magic items really matter to characters. It's one of the things that characters are highly affected by and that players are really interested in that DMs don't spend a lot of time on, but DMs have full control over. So it's useful for us to spend the time to think about what magic items they want and how we can incorporate those into the game. So we spend a little time there. I'll tell you, I'm kind of a slacker even on this. I say, I don't know, I'll figure something out. Random. I'll randomly generate some. Most of the time it's useful to just say, hey, what kind of magic items would your characters be interested in? Jot it down for next time, and the next time think about it. But I often ask that question. I usually don't get great results, which means they're probably happy with random stuff. A lot of my groups, I tend to give a lot of magic items, so they're usually not too far out. Like these characters are level 6, and I think most of them have magic weapons, and there's a lot of stuff. So those are the 8 steps. And now we will jump back and actually perform these steps on my game today. By the way, if anybody has any questions about the book, Return to the Lazy Dungeon Master, and wants me to flip back, I can flip back and we can take a look at it. Like I said, I'm super, super happy. I was exhausted Thursday. I took a couple hours off from work to release it early so that I could spend the whole night worrying about problems, and luckily had very, very few. And I think 3,000 copies were downloaded within a day, so that was pretty great from multiple sources. All right, so where is the game going to start? Oh, so we have our characters, so let's go through those. So we have Koo-rig. Koo-rig is a dwarf cleric, hill dwarf, and he's a bounty hunter who got involved with fire cultists. His cousin was kidnapped, and I already forgot his cousin's name. We'll have to... Oh, it was a goofy name. Crap, I can't remember. I wrote it down upstairs. I'm not running down upstairs to go get it. But his cousin was kidnapped and was part of the Mirabarian delegation. The delegation is sort of a thread that goes through Tomb of Annihilation. It's frankly not a thread that's very well articulated. And it's kind of hard to figure out. Hasira, this is played by the player Robert. Hasira is a Tiefling rogue who is fiery. She was touched by... she toured with Ganthalgrom, who's a bard, and once owned the dagger that became the spearhead of air. She already has a circlet of blasting and a magic dagger. That is played by my friend Sharon. Ganthalgrom is a Goliath bard. He wants to destroy the evils of... He believes that any perversion of earthly... of sort of earthly balance needs to be destroyed, i.e. the cult of earth. And he might have had a friend who joined the Cult of Earth, and he has a wand of magic missiles. He's a bard. Granite is played by, and that's played by my friend Chris. Granite is an Earth Genasi fighter who fought with the dwarves, probably knew Koo-rig, and has a +1 glaive that casts shatter. It got that from the Black Earth cultist down underneath Red Lark. And is a sort of a member of the Foreign Legion of the Dwarven City. And the dwarves like him because he's, got this, he's touched by stone. I also have 2 unknown characters coming today. Robert's wife, Leslie, is coming, and I don't know what she is playing. Oh, one of them is a druid, moon druid, right? But we'll have to figure out how they're tied into the cult and stuff like that. We're gonna have to play around with character introductions a little bit. I think it's like a one-shot character, so I probably won't do too much in there. So the strong start. I have an idea for this, and I want to start by... Oh, let me take a look. There's a bunch of stuff going on in chat right now. M11 Milkman. We'll go with Milkman. Bought the book yesterday. Loved it after the first read. I'm really glad. Thank you very much for buying it, and I'm really glad you like it. I don't think they're named Jimmy. Memphir says, got the new book. Already feels like it become an essential tool in my DMM kit. I am glad you say so. There was a little part of me. I was pretty confident. I talked a lot about this, and the principles are not a huge surprise from things I've talked about on. Not a huge surprise, and not stuff I haven't talked about on Sly Flourish before. So I didn't think people were going to read it and be like, what the hell are you talking about? What is this nonsense, right? And I also had the sample was out for a long time, and I talked about it here all a long time. So I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to get a huge amount of people that said, wow, you are on crack. This is a terrible way to do game prep. But I wasn't, I wouldn't have been surprised by some criticism, and so far I haven't gotten any, which is probably, I don't know, maybe I've been too safe. So, but I'm glad, and I'm very happy that people seem to be enjoying the book. That makes me very happy. Obviously, it's the biggest release I've ever done. What word processor? Sublime. It's right up here. Text editor, Sublime. And interestingly enough, I wrote the full version of Lazy Dungeon Master in Sublime on my Mac at a couple places, coffee shops, and at a mall that is abandoned during the morning. And I could go to the food court there, and it was empty, and I could just put my headphones on and drink my coffee and write for 2 hours straight and not have any problem. Then I could go for a nice walk, have a nice lunch, and then go back and write for another 2 hours or edit for 2 hours. And I did that for a month, and it was probably, it might be the best month of my life. It was pretty great. Really good month, really fun to do it full time. And now I take like 2 weeks twice a year to do something similar. I'll be doing another one in November. Oh, no problem, Creeper. Yeah, so Sublime. And if you Google Sublime, you'll see it. It's a free or shareware, kind of a shareware text editor, and highly used for code. And I use it because it does well with Markdown, and then it's also a great text editor. And I don't like formatting text in like WYSIWYG, so I'm happy with straight text editors. What else? Oh yeah, so let's, what am I still on? I don't even know what view I'm on. Okay, good, I'm on the right view. So we're going to switch back to this view, and we're going to drop in a new tab and drop in the Creature Codex. This is the Creature Codex by Kobold Press. I just got this. This was a Kickstarter as well. That's weird, isn't it? Huh. Why is it doing that? Is it because the cover's so big? How bizarre is that? Yeah, that's weird. Huh. Chrome doesn't like it. Anyway, whatever. So there was a creature in here, and now I've got to remember what it was. Let's go all the way to the end. I guess those big ads at the end are different. Hey, look, Eldritch Lairs is advertised. I wrote for that. Great people wrote this book, by the way, including the Jameses, who write everything these days. Gargoctopus. Really, I have not had the size problem on my iPads, so, and I guess that's where I'm gonna watch it most. Gargoctopus. There are so many great monsters in this. A lot of people when surveyed about what kind of D&D books they want, they say monster books. And honestly, like between the Monster Manual, Volo's Guide, Mordenkainen's, the Tome of Beasts, and the Creature Codex, we've got like 2,000. We have like 2,000 monsters, and I guess you can always have more, like, you can have an infinite number of monsters. I feel like I'm pretty good. I got a lot of monsters. I wouldn't mind specialized like books that talk about particular monsters. I'd love a book about vampires. Of course, I wrote a small book about vampires, but I wouldn't mind more, especially heavy lore. Gargantopus. So obviously we can worry about the stat blocks with this. We have a CR5 creature, 104 hit points. It attacks with tentacles. It can fling stuff or throw people around. It does tentacle slams. It does all the things an octopus would do. That's fine, I guess, right? It also can breathe air, so it can actually live above water, which is kind of cool. But what I found interesting is this idea that they are scholarly wanderers. They are neutral in their alignment, so they're not necessarily, they look meaner in hell, right? That looks mean, but they are not necessarily evil. But they're scholarly wanderers. Belying its fearsome appearance, a Gargantopus is an insatiable, curious scholar, fascinated by the remains of vanished cultures. It wanders the oceans, exploring drowned cities and sunken ships, and occasionally it raises its imposing bulk from the water to investigate relics and ruins on land. Sharing lore. That it shares its lore. Sometimes it pulls from adventurers. It also, if there are two of them, they will just sit around for weeks on end sharing information. Curse of Strahd, an edition focused on vampires. Curse of Strahd is a great adventure about a vampire. I'm talking about like a source book that talks about vampires. There's actually a whole vampire like nation in the Midgard campaign book, And that's pretty close too. I just want more. And there's some vampires in this one, actually, and some new vampire guys in this one. But I just want like a source book about vampires, or undead in general. There was a like Libris Mortis. Remember a book called Libris Mortis? I think it was for 3rd edition. They might have done one for 4th, but like one that just focused on sort of high end undead. I think that would be a really cool book. I wouldn't mind something like that. So this idea of like an octopus that lives above and below water, and it focuses on lore, I think is really interesting. And I think I want the first scene to be that this thing it's probably got a high stealth. Yeah, +7 stealth. So we'll give it like a really, we'll say that they didn't see it when they were resting and it was sort of sitting there. Maybe they had weird dreams, and I think that the start of the adventure, that this thing sort of makes itself apparent, and it sort of wants, maybe it's not super nice and it's like drawing memories out of people, but it also knows a whole lot about the cult, and it can share a lot of information. So you want like a vehicle for secrets and clues. This is a great vehicle for secrets and clues. It knows a lot, right? And it can share a lot if they negotiate with it correctly. It speaks telepathically. So, it's going to show images more so than than actually speak, but they'll be able to sort of get the gist. So I think and it needs a name, right? Overax. I don't think Overax is anything. Overax the Gargoctopus. The idea that sort of deals in secrets and cultures, right? It wants secrets and cultures. It wants to know people. So this is a great role play opportunity, because I can also say like what bit of your history or the history of your people do you share with the Gargoctopus for it to reveal its secrets? So, and it might go bad, right? It could start with a fight, and I think it will sort of pull itself back and, send these sort of peaceful telepathic signals like, please don't kill me, I've got information. If it starts with a fight and they look like they're going to try to kill it, I might have a pull. And if they decide, no, we don't want anything from your crazy ass alien tentacle creature, and kill it, then so be it. That's how things work out. So I think, yeah, the reveal of Overax, the Gargoctopus, is good. What scenes take? Oh, and there was another monster in here that I kind of dug. It looked really dangerous. It's so weird about the pages. Yeah. It doesn't affect me too much, but it didn't do this in preview actually on my Mac either. It did it here. There was a really nasty critter. So there's these scrags, which are like, so you could have scrags. If we want to run with some Tome or Creature Codex, love the name Gargoctopus. I wish I knew which writers wrote which monsters. There was another critter. The Shoreline Scrapper. Look at these shadow skeletons. Man. Monarch skeleton. Thing looks crazy. There's talk about undead. There's a ton of undead. Fantastic book. If you want a good creature book, man, you can't go wrong with this. The Shoth. Wow. Avatar of Shoth is CR21. Another ooze demon. There's a Shoreline Scrapper. So it's like a metallic giant crab, and it pulls items to itself. So that's a good one. Pretty hard. CR4. They might be able to take 2 of them, but it's going to be hard. But it has like a magnetic thing, it hunts for items. It's a metal scavenger. And it pulls metal to itself. So it kind of pulls you, pulls you and your items closer. DeGaston83 says they play tested this one, so that's cool. One thing about Creature Codex and Kobold Press monsters in general, which I appreciate, but you have to kind of keep in mind, is they hit hard for their CR. They, in my opinion, they are hitting correctly for the CR. So it's a CR4 that's doing an average of 28 damage around with its claw attacks. That's pretty high, right? So 2 of these against a group of level 6s, that's going to be a hard fight. Like, it's going to be dishing out, a lot of damage, 56 damage around between the 2 of them. Like they're not kidding around. So, yeah, so this is some, and then, so these are just some monsters that I like in here. Yeah, I know, it's funny. Yeah, I think it's worth picking up. I backed the Kickstarter. I got the hard copy and the PDF, and I love it. So I think it's a fantastic book. And if you don't have the Tome of Beasts, that's also a fantastic book. So like I said, with the Tome of Beasts, which is huge, I've got a copy sitting over there. The Tome of Beasts, which is huge, and this one, that's like another 800 pages of monsters on top of the monster manual. The other thing, and I love these, like every book that has this, I'm happy with. Lots of NPCs, war priests, that can be both good and evil, right? They have like, you can have an evil war priest, war chaplains, void-racked mage, void speakers. So they have sort of specific sort of cultists. Void cultists, right? They're a little different than your standard cultist. The Thief Lord, the Scorpion Assassin, which is essentially like an assassin with spells. The War or Necromancer, there's your Necromancer. Mete Colin Ol, a cold priest. I like this one because this would be a great sort of priest of in the north, of Icewind Dale. What's the name of the crazy witch, the ice witch that lives up there, that has followers up there? Your elf-marked human, your gnomish knife cultist. It's sort of like a, wow, knife cultist. There's a demon summoner. Yeah, that one's pretty tough. So I love NPCs, and you can never have enough NPCs. And what I'm happy about is I think all 4 or 5 books now, Monster Manual, Volos, Mordenkainen's, Tome of Beasts, and this one all have lots of NPCs in them. So now I kind of wish they were all in one place. But, I love having, I use NPCs more than any other monster. I use them all the time. And so having all these NPCs is really cool. But no, the only problem is now we got 5 monster books to deal with. Anyway, so I've got that first scene. Let's go back to so if you haven't picked up Creature Codex, it is worth your time. I will get you can pick it up directly from Kobold Press. It is $30 for the PDF, and it is $55 for print and PDF, which is, in my opinion, a good deal. $55 for the print and PDF version is a very good deal. I'm adding. Yeah, I do wish. DeGaston says they wishes he could get TOB and CC into D&D Beyond. I wish the same thing. I wonder if they're in there as shared monsters. I wonder if somebody can do something like that. I don't know if that's illegal. I don't even know how that works. It is a bummer. It'd be nice if they could work something out. But I have a feeling that copyright issues and everything else would be tough. Like D&D Beyond doesn't sell anything but core books. They don't sell any third party. If they open the door to that, I don't know what you get. So, but yeah, we suffer because they can't figure that out. So let's take a look at what scenes will take place. I'm going to kind of let the adventure run itself at a certain point. Oh God, I just closed a window, didn't I? Oh, that's the worst. Oh, what a hassle. Hang on a sec. Properties. All right, we're getting there. We're almost back. Sorry, I closed the window. I didn't mean to close. Let's go back to adventures. Preach of the Apocalypse. And we are down in Howling Caves. No, whoops. We're not in Howling Caves. We are... Oh, I went to the wrong place completely. Sorry. That's the... Here we go. Temple of the Crushing Wave. So, let's open up that map. There we go. Back to where we were. So C5, C6, C7, this whole area, C12. But I don't know what direction they're going to take, right? So I'm probably not going to... I'm probably not going to prepare too much scene-wise about what scenes are going to take place. They're going to be able to explore the area. The one thing I am going to do is make sure that they have some opportunities for role-playing and exploration, more so than everything else. You know, and I don't mind them getting involved in some fights, but I definitely want them to be able to talk to people as well. So we're going to kind of jump down. Oh, the hags I think could be really interesting. You know, that there's hags here who also have some information. Paladin Hulk says he likes when a dungeon isn't super linear. I like that as well, and I'll tell you, I think I have a new trick. It's a hypothesis on my part, but one I'm going to explore is that if you design a dungeon with multiple entrances, you almost always ensure that it isn't linear. You know, it's kind of hard to say like they start here. I mean, if you have a starting location and then you kind of branch out from there, it's still kind of linear. But if you say like this is a place where there's multiple ways to get in, one, you know, two or more ways. As soon as you do that, well, now the whole thing, I think the dungeon generally becomes more organic. So I'm gonna attempt to sort of design dungeons when I'm designing dungeons by saying, what are the multiple ways to get here? And then letting that sort of flow together, you know, let those areas. So it might be like, if you have like a sewer complex or a thieves guild, you might say like, how do you get into this thieves guild? Well, you can get in from their front company, which is upstairs, but they also have access from the sewers, and maybe they have a cave entrance, you know, outside of the land. So now you sort of have these three entrances that come in, and then you sort of let those merge together, you know. And what it means is that you have a place it's not linear from the beginning. It's like, how do you want to get there? You know, like, do you want to go in through the cave entrance, which could be guarded by monsters? Do you want to try to deal with the front company, or are you going to travel through the sewers? Canadian shipping fees mean that the process on the print versions. I can understand that. In fact, I have a new rule that I'm trying to only buy digital products. I don't really want tons and tons and tons of books. I already have tons and tons and tons of books. Kobold Press is one that gets a free pass. I will buy their books. And then apparently so is Monty Cook Games with Numenera, because I now have 3 different versions of Numenera sitting on my shelf. And I don't play it that much, but I just love those books so much. And they keep coming out with these fantastic deals. But I did hold back on their most recent one, where I did not buy... They did their new Your Best Game Ever Kickstarter, and I backed the digital version, but I did not back the paper version. So I managed to steel myself for that. Because I always feel like if I really want the paper book, I can go buy it again. Like, I don't need to, you know. But man, sometimes their deals are so good. The Numenera deal was like 6 printed books, you know, and all the PDFs are like $150. And I was like, that's, you know, I can't afford not to. But then, of course, I get a whole bunch of books, and I'm like, oh man, look at all these books. I did it for board games for a while. I backed too many board games. I got like 5 board games in a row, and I don't play them. So there is a... so there's this character, Thaluna. She's an interesting NPC. And Thaluna is a sea hag. I think we'll have a secret and clue. Clue will be... So Thaluna could be sort of a secondary oh, she's got magic stuff too. That's interesting. Potion of Hill Giant Strength and Bronze Fume is a dragon turtle, right? So I think there could be some fun role playing with the hag. Oh, they already have aquatic trolls. There's a picture of aquatic trolls shaking boats. The idea of knocking people into the water and then getting advantage on them when you're a water creature is really pretty mean. That's a big, powerful strategy for this place. So this whole place used to be a dwarvish storage area, right? DeGaston said, when full physical for best game ever with the updated Cypher. Yeah, I just don't play the Cypher system. I ended up getting the PDFs because I just love the game world so much. But Cypher, I like the Cypher system. To me fits really well with Numenera. But I don't really feel like I need it for other ones. There's a couple of problems I have with the Cypher system that makes me not really want to use it as my go-to all-over system. I think I'd rather use Fate or Fate Accelerated as a kind of core core RPG system. I kind of don't like that you have to sacrifice your attribute points to boost numbers, but then sometimes you'll boost it and then roll higher than you boosted it for no good reason. It makes you feel like you just dropped hit points. The resource management is a little bugs me a little bit. But everyone else loves it, and I these are minor quibbles. I would obviously not play Numenera with anything else other than Cypher. I think it's fine. Morbaroth is what's Morbaroth? A shiver. So we might have some captured cultists. I like the idea that there might be cultists being captured and interrogated from the other place. Dragon turtle with 220 hit points. This is really bad. I'm just skimming the different areas. I think the main important part is to figure out here we go, exactly what is going on in the temple. If this is the first, yeah, dragon turtles are scary. They breathe steam, boiling steam. Hurt people. Don't want to hurt people. Where is it here? So Gar Shatterkeel is here working on the altar. If this is the first one, because I guess like as soon as the first elemental person is what are these guys called? They're avatars. I don't remember what they're called. The servants. It's the idea that like they're all not making a lot of progress. They're all not making a lot of progress because the other ones are in play. So the minute they get rid of one of them, the resistance lessens, and now all of them kind of go down to the next. That's sort of like, you know, the next Um, These are all my secrets that I'm working on. Secrets are really the core of prep for me. They take the longest. They also have the highest value. Memphir says, "Hey Mike, I have to run, but just want to say thanks for the new book. I'm glad you like it. Thank you, my friend, and let you know that you have been of you. Oh, you're very kind. Any benefit you've had to your own game is your own doing. If I have an idea and it helps, it is maybe at best a small lever, but I am glad. Thank you very much for the kind words, and thank you for picking up the book. Couldn't have done it without you." Role playing, shatter keel. So what is he doing there? I guess he's working on it, but like, why is he up here and not down below? Is a big question. The caravan stairs. If Shatterkeel is defeated or retreats to the upper letters, the characters of Ithuna and Morbeth, the crushing wave cult falls apart. Surviving cultists abandon this level, although some monsters may remain. A few cultists retreat to the Fane of the Eye or the Purging Torrents, while others flee to the temple altogether. If Ithuna or Morbeth remain after the characters leave crushing wave, the cultists reorganize the defenses and fight off any other incursion. Who is Morboth? Morboth, the one-eyed shiver. I think he is probably... Morboth is probably... fanatic. The dragon turtle. Bronze fume. Cares more for treasure than following. So, dealing with bronze fume might have a few different ways. Kind of dealing with him the same way as the dragon turtle in Chult, that, you know, if you give him treasure, he might let you go. But the other one is they could be convinced that following Gar is foolish. So that's one way to sort of deal with bronze fume. What else? Okay, so that's kind of the stuff for here, but what else can they learn in general? The prophets, that's what they are. What did I say it was? Avatars, the elemental prophets. Single voice commands the prophets, each in a different way. The dungeons beneath. Drow temple to an unknown god. What else? The eye. So there's a pile of secrets. It's okay. Scenes. Exploring. Exploring the Temple of Crushing Wave. Again, I have no idea where they will go after that. I guess the other scene could be the... I'm trying to remember. They have it in the book. About the cult retaliation. After they defeat their first prophet, run dire tidings. So one of the cultists, I will roll randomly. Whoops. Yeah, I don't know which one of the ones will work. I think I have the third shrine. So that will be a thing that happens. And otherwise, we'll have some random events. So let's take a quick look. We're hitting 11 o'clock. Let's see what we've got. We've got the characters, although I have two that I don't know anything about, so we'll have to figure out how to integrate them. I have the strong start. We're going to have the Gargoctopus, who knows lots of secrets and knows things about what's down here and has picked up much of it from the centuries. He probably has all these secrets piled up in his head. What scenes will take place? Exploring the Temple of the Crushing Wave. They will probably, I don't know, it might take them all day to go face Gar. I don't know if they'll actually face Gar or not. We'll find out. Dire tidings. And then if they defeat Gar and they come up, there will be a use of one of the orbs upon a town. Probably not a town they know. Maybe it'll be that shithole town on the river. That as sort of an attack against the elemental, because now that the cult of water weakened, that gave one of the other elemental priests, probably fire, the opportunity to blow up a town that they knew had allied with the Crushing Wave cults. That'd be kind of cool. I've got a pile of secrets. Fantastic locations are all in the book, so I'm not going to worry about that. NPCs, I've got a couple that they can deal with. The hag, I think, will be interesting. What monsters might they face? We've got some monsters, and then what magic items they acquire. I think whatever's in the book. Plus, I'll give them another opportunity to ask what they've got. Paladin Hulk, you haven't figured out how to introduce these new adventures. No, I haven't, because I don't really know even who they are yet. So we're gonna have to play that by ear. They will, a question I will ask them. Whoops, I clicked something I shouldn't click. Done a lot of that today. A question that I should ask is, for these new characters, what brought them into the Crushing Wave? Are they escaped explorers? So the question is, they're down here already. What are they? How did they get down here? Did they kind of get lost on the sea? Were they taken down here? Did they, find an old tunnel that collapsed behind them? I'll have to kind of figure out how they got here. One of my totally cheap ass ways of integrating a character is I always say, like, as soon as like of the character of the players that are playing the normal existing characters, the current characters, I say, as soon as you put eyes on these people, you immediately feel the heroism in their hearts and treat them and trust them as close allies. And it's like, don't get through the whole, I don't trust you, who are you, why are you doing that down here? Oh, so boring. Like, everyone knows that we're all on the same side because we're all sitting here as players. So let's just say as soon as you look at them, you just feel an affinity for them to join the group, and everyone's like, yeah, good enough. It's kind of cheap, but it, if you don't want to spend a half hour figuring out why they shouldn't kill each other, then it's easier to just say, come up with some nonsense about how they, just by their mere gaze, they know that these are people that they can trust. And it works. So, probably not the best set of notes I've ever had. I do have a couple hours, so I am going to go grab the actual physical book and sit down and kind of read through it, and I might kind of tweak these as I go or add some other things as I go. But I feel I have enough to go on, and the fun group and people. I mean, the hard part is I have 6 players instead of the normal 4 or 5. And it'll be interesting to see. Degaston83 says, yeah, and if you have that one player in the group who always plays Moody McEdgelord Dark Pants, things can rapidly go downhill. Yeah, if you're right. If you got the guy who's like, I'm not trustworthy. And I'll tell you one that drives me crazy is like the hermit who's like, yeah, I don't really like people. I don't like people and I don't like stuff. And it's like, oh, that's so tiresome. Just why play a character that doesn't want to group with adventurers? Like, oh, I've heard another one like, oh, my character's a total pacifist. You're like, it's D&D, man. You're cutting off an entire avenue if you say you're a pacifist. Yeah, why are you adventuring? And so maybe that character stays home, and cooks a stew. And now what other character comes with the party? So, I think I have it in the book. I think it's, hang on, I'll give it one last opportunity to pull up Lazy Dungeon Master. Hey, there it is. I think it's in our session 0. Let's see here. And I'm not saying anything, but by the way, all of my art fits in the single page. So rushing the session 0, managing the world, tying the characters together. I thought I had a thing in here. Yeah. Guide characters towards cooperative adventure. Over the course of session 0, help you set it up. Characters built on themes that don't work for a particular campaign can lead to boredom and frustration for you and the players. Give them a wide player options, but build characters with a clear reason to adventure with the rest of the party. Why does your character want to spend time with these people? Why, your character should be tied to the rest of the thing. So that's one of the things that I have in the whole chapter here. Isn't that great art? Look at that artwork. God, I love this book. So happy. Sometimes a little bit of railroading is okay. And when you say to them, build a character that wants to fit the theme of the adventure and wants to group with other people to do it, it's not out of hand and it's not total railroading. And it just cuts off a few, like, oh, well, I actually am like a noble that wants to spend time spend time at home. Maybe your answer is, well, I don't really want to adventure with other people, but I have to because my family is telling me I have to. Okay. Good enough. Like, it means that you've got a reason why you're there with these other people, and that can be okay. So, guide characters. Here it is, right? Guide characters towards cooperative adventure by asking them to give their characters a clear reason to adventure with the rest of the group. That's my sort of highlight on that. So anyway, I am going to head out and go have my coffee and go read my adventure before I run my game. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all in the chat. Hi, Mom. My mom's in chat. She stayed the whole time. That's impressive. For those of you who picked up the book, thank you very much. I'm very happy it's out. I'm very happy to be able to put it in your hands, and I hope you enjoy what you see. And for those of you who enjoy these streams, I will have another one tomorrow morning at probably 10 o'clock in which I prepare for my Tomb of Annihilation game. So thank you all, and I hope to see you guys then. Have a great day.